So hello all and welcome. And I am the Bachelor Philosopher, also known on some other alt tech platforms as the Realist Philosopher, because in the end I'm a realist and I'm a philosopher, so it fits very well. So how y'all doing today? Hope you're all doing good, fine, and well. So this story is purely for uh, comedic purposes, and sometimes I like to review these kind of stories. I need a good laugh. You need a good laugh. Quick humor injection, nothing too serious, nothing too long-winded. So we got a woman here. Of course, it's a woman. I have yet to see any story about a dude doing something like this who says she's having an erotic relationship with a tree. Now, erotic is essentially, emotions that have to do with sexual arousal. That's the meaning of erotic. There's no getting around it. If you're talking about something being erotic, you're talking about something that arouses you sexually. So this woman is sexually aroused by an oak tree. I've been seeing a lot of these kind of stories of late. Women marrying their dogs, women marrying themselves, women marrying toasters, iPhones, and now we've got women marrying trees. It's almost always chicks like in their latter years, middle age plus, run out of options. They've ridden the carousel until the carousel is rusty and it's driving itself into the ground. it's it's just falling apart, that carousel, man. It's seen better days, as has the woman that's riding it into the ground. And now, options are out, so I'm gonna find a new way to cope. And that new way is erotic relationships with oak trees. Okay, so let's get into this, shall we? From the Daily Mail, because of course it's from the Daily Mail. Sonia Semyonova, 45, of course she's 45, what would you expect, claims she's in an erotic relationship. See, when I hear the word erotic, now of course if you're a liberal, you're a leftist, words of course have no meaning. Nothing has any meaning, right? So why should we follow their prescriptions for how the world ought to work? Because they're no more or less valid than ours, meaning the right, meaning the conservatives. But anyway, in my mind, erotic has very set meaning, but to her, you're going to find out clearly it either doesn't or she's being disingenuous. But anyway, yeah, erotic relationship with an oak tree after feeling a connection while lying on top of it. What do you mean lying on top of it? I mean, you mean lying on the ground on like the roots and such during lonely COVID walks? Yeah. Sonia has always felt lonely, but says her relationship with the tree has filled a void. Yeah, I can think of numerous voids that you could fill with pieces of wood. But you'd have to do some serious jury rigging. You'd have to bring some serious tools with you. Various knives and sandpaper and varnish and all that. Otherwise, you're going to have some life-threatening injuries there. You're trying to fill voids with various parts of a tree. But anyway, let's get into this. A woman describes herself as ecosexual. What the hell is that? I don't know what ecosexual is. So I'm going to use the word sexual, but it's not sexual. I'm going to use the word erotic, but it's not erotic. So ecosexual, so she's sexually aroused by nature. I mean, is that a thing? Like, I guess maybe there's some people that like get aroused from like having S out in public or out in nature and such, voyeuristic people. But I don't think it's the ecology, the wildlife, the vegetation that turns them on as much as the thrill of perhaps getting seen, getting caught by someone. Anyway, see, she says it's an erotic relationship with an oak tree. See, how does that work? So I guess you could say that's very abnormal, but I suppose it's possible if you just stick to a non-sexual act, but sexually aroused view of it, but that is so bizarre. So she has an erotic relationship with an oak tree. Not a human, but an oak tree. Yeah, yeah. So, Sonia, a self-intimacy guide. What the hell is that? Somebody that teaches self-pleasuring? Is that what that is? Could you imagine going to... What is that? That's the only thing I can think of. Self-intimacy guide. No, I don't teach people how to frig themselves off. People come into my office and I teach them how to be closer to themselves. But when you say intimacy guide, that's what I think of. And she probably does that as well. She's probably like boy or something. I don't know. Probably the closest thing she's gotten in a long time to any kind of sexual contact with another human is these self-intimacy sessions where she's teaching women how to frig themselves and squirt and all that weird stuff. This is so bizarre. What a degenerate culture. What a degenerate world we're living in now where we got self-intimacy guides. I'm going to teach you how to be closer, more intimate with yourself. Yeah. Oh, Lord, that's some nutty stuff, man. Even says that the feeling she experiences with the tree, what she always looked for in a person. Well, that might be part of the problem. You're looking for qualities in people that don't exist, right? Like, tree-like, nature-like, vegetative-like qualities. I mean, I guess you could have a similar relationship to somebody in, say, a vegetative state, a coma. I mean, that'd be pretty abnormal in and of itself, but at least it'd be a living human being. There's an identity and a personality in there somewhere beneath, their, vegetative, possibly brain dead state. This is so odd. So odd. There's a video. Do we want to watch the video? Might be easier to watch the video than just to read the rest of the story. All right, let's do this. Okay, let's take a deep dive into crazy.
It started back in that heinous year that none of us like to remember, 2020. It was in that year that I moved from Mexico to Canada with my family. And being neither Mexican nor Canadian...
What do you mean you moved to Mexico with your family? You don't have a husband, you don't have kids. You moved to Mexico with your mommy and daddy? A brother or sister? I shouldn't go into any detail. I'm assuming it's like mother and father. Why she doesn't bring it up, because there's a level of shame there. I live with my parents! Yeah. Strong and independent she ain't.
I had been lonely for a long time. Lonely despite being married, because...
Were you married at the time, or you had been married and then you divorced to ride the CC because you thought the grass might be greener on the other side? Well, I guess the trees were greener. Because you were seeking trees, vegetation, right? Oh, this is so strange.
Moving in the year of a pandemic put just tremendous weight on my partner and me.
So when she says family, she was married, but lonely, even though she was married. So clearly, this chick has some issues with people. So this is a woman, she talks about self-intimacy, even though she's married. Doesn't that mean she should be an expert on, like, interpersonal intimacy with your partner? So she's married but lonely. She's an expert on self-intimacy, but clearly knows nothing about partner intimacy within a marriage, which is probably why her marriage failed. And instead of putting the time and effort and work into making her marriage better, she put time and effort and work into escaping that marriage and replacing her husband with a tree. Okay, continue.
So much that we nearly destroyed each other. In this time, I developed several coping mechanisms, and among the healthier of them was taking daily walks on this marsh swamp that is near my house. These were therapeutic walks.
That's your coping mechanism. I guess there's worse coping mechanisms, but wouldn't the way to cope be communication with your husband? Isn't that how you should be, coping? I don't find that to be coping. That sounds like you were running away from your problems. And now you're just trying to actually cope. That's the cope. The cope is you trying to justify escaping the problem instead of facing the problem and making things better. Yeah, And the tree is just a surrogate for the partner you had, but you didn't want to have an actual relationship with. Okay, continue.
I would cry in the rain, I would talk to my friends, and I would come up with these massive epiphanies about my life and how I wanted it to be.
New copes.
One of the most significant was the realization that I had been craving that rush of erotic energy that comes when you meet a new partner, and
All right, let's full screen this.
that it is not sustainable. It doesn't last.
So she had been craving. Let's hear that again, guys. You need to hear this.
One of the most significant was the realization that I had been craving that rush of erotic energy that comes when you meet a new partner. And
so she's chasing the dragon. That's what I call it. Whether it be shooting up heroin or in a relationship, it's pretty much the same thing. You know, it's the mindset of an addict. It's a mindset of somebody who is a slave to their emotions. So it's a mindset of somebody who has an addictive personality. It's the mindset of somebody who is more about feelings than facts and cares more about the subjective than the objective. You know. So this woman, she's craving that rush. Right? Yeah. And she doesn't stick around long enough in a relationship to develop any real interpersonal skills, to develop any real intimacy. So, you know, she's telling on herself right here. I never developed any ability to be intimate with a partner because whenever the fee-fees, butterflies left, I left to seek out more butterflies. That's it. So she's totally, completely, 100% incapable of having a long-term, close, intimate relationship with a man because her whole life she's only stuck around for the honeymoon fee butterfly period and didn't stick around long enough to practice and develop the necessary skills, put herself in the situation to develop the necessary intimacy skills to have a long-term relationship with a man. And now that she's 45, she's fully cooked. So change is more or less impossible. So what is she going to do in terms of having a long-term relationship? Is she going to try to develop the necessary skills, which will be much harder now that she's fully cooked and 45 than if she was 25? No. She's just going to choose to get into a long-term relationship with a tree. Where she could have full intimacy because real intimacy isn't actually required because it's a tree.
And that it is not sustainable. It doesn't last.
That's true. Now that's true. That's why you need long-term pair bonding, and it helps to have kids to tie you together, and it helps to have meaning, and it helps to have values and virtues that you share. And then that is what the relationship is based upon, not just butterflies and fees. And through that, you develop real intimacy. No, can't have that. No. I'm going to cope by getting into an erotic relationship with an oak tree.
We are human. We cannot keep up with that energy forever. Yet I believed it was possible. I believed I could tap into that erotic life force somehow, somewhere.
What? Erotic life force somehow, somewhere? The hell is she talking about? I don't know what she said. This broad sounds like those chicks when they start talking about astrology. This is magic. She's talking about magic. Erotic life force. Can somebody show me a study? Can somebody show me evidence? Can somebody show me some kind of graph or metric that can measure erotic life force? What is she talking about? I'm talking about the energy of nature, which, while it ebbs and flows, is never ending, always existed, so I can tap into that and feed my eroticism forever. What? What Fantasyland BS is this? Crazy.
And around the time of this epiphany, I began to notice that about the halfway point in my walk, I would pass a grove of oak trees, and one particular tree in that grove called to me.
The tree called to her. What are you, a druid? The hell is she talking about? So now trees are calling to her. Yeah. Honey, you marketing yourself as a self-intimacy coach, as any kind of coach, as any kind of mental health professional, any kind of wellness coach, any kind of coach of any kind is extremely dangerous. You are mentally ill. Okay, I'm not sorry to say it. You're mentally ill. You have serious problems. Trees are calling to you. It's time to commit yourself, okay?
So I began to stop daily at this particular oak tree, and I began to lean against it, began to hold it and feel held by it. And I noticed that I was experiencing erotic attraction.
Wait, what is she talking about? Erotic attraction. So this is very sad. That this woman can have the kind of intimacy with an inanimate. Okay, you might say, "Oh, it's not an inanimate object, realist. It's alive." Okay, trees are alive, but do they think? Oh, they can feel pain. You hit it with an axe, and you have like something hooked up to the tree. You could see a spike. It feels it, does it? Maybe it feels it the same way that a potato feels itself getting dug up. There's no evidence that trees are sentient or that they think. They're definitely not sentient, okay? There aren't that many animals on Earth that are actually sentient, okay, that meet the hallmark for sentient beings, all right? They're not self-aware, all right? They're not sitting there contemplating the mysteries of the universe. There ain't much going on with the freaking tree. So you could question me calling it an inanimate object, but I'm going to call it an object, inanimate, all right, darn near, okay? So she can have a relationship with a tree, an inanimate object, pretty darn close to one that she can't have with a human being. And she's marketing that as a good thing. And the Daily Mail is pushing it as a good thing.
Now, this is different from attraction that you experience with another person.
The witches and the Taoists have been doing this for centuries. No, they have not. They're not seeking out nature and objects in nature, trees and plants, to be substitutes for people. Okay, that's total bunk. That's BS. That's a misrepresentation. That's nonsense.
It's not about me drawing myself outward. Look at me, look at me, look at me.
Sure it is. Of course it is.
Instead,
you're looking for a validation. You're looking for approval. You're seeking attention.
Felt like I was getting a download of erotic life force directly from the source.
What the hell are you talking about? Erotic energy? Look, erotic is just thoughts, feelings created within somebody that spur sexual interest. It's totally completely subjective, and it needs a mind. Are you telling me that trees and other plants and nature itself, outside of like, living beings that have brains, which a tree doesn't, are you telling me trees have erotic energy? Are you telling me trees get sexually aroused even though trees don't have sex? What the hell are you talking about? Don't trees reproduce asexually? They drop nuts and stuff, and, what are you talking about? There's no erotic energy. What is she talking about?
It never failed.
There's no erotic energy outside of people, and even there, that's just thoughts. And what's erotic for one person isn't erotic for another. I mean, there are things that generally you could term as erotic in that they will spur sexual interest, sexual arousal in the majority of people, but it doesn't exist in a tree. There's no energy separate from living beings with brains, minds, that exist separate from those brains and minds. What are you talking about?
Me. It was never too needy. It was never too distant. It always welcomed me.
So, people are too needy. People are too distant. They always welcome me. Well, maybe a husband might welcome you more if you were, higher quality individual that it can actually have intimacy with. So it's very difficult, if not impossible, to bond with you. Pair bond, probably because you've been with so many men before your husband. And so you see him as needy. Yeah, because he's not getting what he needs from you. And in turn, you're not getting what you need because you got too many bodies. So your solution is to just seek out an inanimate object that isn't needy. It has all its needs fulfilled by nature itself. So no responsibility for me, no demands of me, no accountability for me. Wow.
And it filled me up in the way that no other human relationship has ever done.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? Doesn't that mean the problem is you? Doesn't that mean there's probably something? No, there's no probably. Doesn't that mean there's something wrong with you? If you're getting filled up by a tree, holy jeez, just saying that is disturbing.
And it is why I never feel lonely or unlovable.
Right. Yeah, that's cope. I don't believe any of that for a second. That's why I never feel lonely or unloved. Give it time, sweetheart. Is this like a new mind hack, right? To deal with the misery of her life, and you really think this is going to last? This is obviously a recent development. How long is this going to last, sweetheart? How long is this new cope going to distract you from the emptiness inside you? Got news for you, honey. There ain't no tree filling no void inside you. Get yourself a toy, honey. That'll fill the void, and safely.
Now, if you don't believe me that nature can have an erotic appeal, then
No, it can't.
go tell me what all of those pollination acts and elaborate mating dances are all about.
Those are animals, not trees. What are you talking about? Those are other living beings. Other living beings. We're in nature too. What are you talking? It's just totally completely absurd. You're making a categorizational error. You're conflating living beings with brains, with minds, with awareness that exist within the natural world, which we are one of those animals, by the way, with the world itself, which is inanimate and unconscious and lacking in awareness because it's inanimate, largely. What is she talking about? Oh, wow, this chick is nuts!
The erotic is an energy.
No, it's not. Show it to me. Can you point it out?
Sometimes the erotic is present in sex, but they're not always sharing the same bed.
Well, since erotic means that you something that arouses you, and you're gonna have to be aroused. Well, not a woman, okay, but if you're a man, definitely, because the junk has got to, got to get a woody, as it were. No pun intended. And for a woman to enjoy it, there's got to be some lubrication there, whether it be artificial or natural. If you definitely want to enjoy it, it's got to be erotic. You're gonna be turned on, right? So what are you talking about?
And this is what the oak tree has taught me. It has taught me how to decouple erotic energy from the act of physical sex.
Well, true that just having erotic emotions, being stimulated, being aroused sexually doesn't necessarily lead to sex. So what? What do you mean decouple? I mean, this sounds like for a man, blue balls with extra steps. What are you talking about? Yeah, I mean, yes, you can be sexually aroused, have erotic thoughts, emotions, stimuli, and not act upon it. So what? I don't see what your point is. So for you, it's enough to get erotically stimulated. Right? Okay, I've learned to decouple the eroticism from the act itself. Well, wouldn't you have to? Can't really be having sex with a tree, can you? I mean, unless you do some major work on that tree. You got to find yourself a relatively short branch and get to work with the various grades of sandpaper and polishing compounds so that it's a safe act, yo.
One is constant and steady, and the other is fleeting.
No, erotic is fleeting. Passion is fleeting. What are you talking about? People don't have erotic thoughts and aren't sexually stimulated all the time. Even sex addicts don't have that kind of issue. They're not always in a state of arousal. What's she talking about? She thinks there's some kind of energy that exists separate from mind, consciousness, that is in and of itself sexual arousal made manifest separate of a consciousness.
But even in those fleeting experiences, we all know that it is the energy of sex that we're after.
Oh, so I have the energy without the act itself, you see, so I can justify having a relationship with the tree as being somehow healthy. More cope. Oh, Lord, this chick, wow.
And in case you're curious, yeah, I still have human relationships, and by the grace of the goddess,
And when I have them, I'm dreaming about my tree. So you are acting on your erotic emotions?
my partner and I are still together. We made it.
What? You're still married? She calls it her partner, though, and not her husband. Are you married then? She might not be married. She might just be calling him this guy her husband because they've lived together for some time. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? This chick's wacko. She doesn't doesn't seem to know what words mean, and she uses them in the loosest senses or the whatever sense is most convenient for her in the moment. So who knows? You made it. How does your husband feel to know this guy's got to be the super simp? How does he feel knowing that you care more about or aroused more by a tree than him, and that he's just essentially a masturbatory tool? How does he feel about that?
But I know now what a human can provide and what nature's endless well can.
So you've just found, discovered hedonism with extra steps? I don't get it. Oh, yeah, this is weird.
So if you want this too, then first look inside and notice what you really want, and then look around because nature's always flirting with you.
What are you talking about? Nature's always flirting with me. So essentially, it sounds like this woman is incapable, after the honeymoon period, of being aroused by her partner, in this case, which is calling her husband, because she lacks virtue and she didn't recognize the virtue in him, and maybe they don't share the same values. There's clearly no pair bond. And without that pair bonding and without those virtues, which are the currency in a relationship, there's no give and take. There's no high level of appreciation. You don't have that bond. You don't have that love, which after that honeymoon period is what you're seeking to reinforce when you have sexual relations with your partner. But since she doesn't have that intimate bond, doesn't know how to develop it, at this point, probably never can, that, she doesn't get that, that feeling, that intimacy, that eroticism with her hubby anymore without that honeymoon butterfly period. So now she's justifying seeking out that intimacy, that need for that intimacy in a inanimate object, because that inanimate object doesn't have any needs. It's not needy. Doesn't require anything of me like this damn hubby. Well, I'm really just keeping around to pay the bills and use it as a sex toy after I get all worked up by my tree.
Let's clear up some misconceptions, shall we?
Oh, we got a follow-up here now. I guess this follow-up is after she got maybe some negative responses. Okay, some pushback.
The first thing I want to say is that a sexual relationship, an erotic relationship, it can happen in a way that is far more creative than most of y'all are giving it credit.
The hell are you talking about? An erotic relationship is one that is, I mean, what are you talking about? Even if you remove sex from the equation, it would still mean that the relationship you're having with whatever, supposed to be with a human being, is stimulating you sexually. That's what the word means. Far more creative. Oy, 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 cope.
If your only relationship to understanding your sexual power, your erotic energy, is through what you might call P and V, you're missing out on a lot of life and a lot of pleasure.
P
Oh, and
and
if
V.
you
P and V. So, yeah, honey. Yeah. Okay. Nothing to say. Let's continue.
don't know what that term means, go ahead and look that up. I genuinely feel for you. If you have never found
Oh, now she's going on the high road, right? Condescending. I am in a higher place now that none of you can understand, and I look down on and pity you. Yeah.
yourself standing in the woods or looking over a rushing river or swimming in the big vast ocean, and you have never stopped and felt the way that those natural experiences feel in your body?
I mean, I felt grandeur. I've been impressed. I've been awed by the power and the beauty of nature, but I don't get a woody from it. I don't get sexually aroused by a waterfall or a tree, yo. That's just demented.
And recognize that there is a bliss and glee there that can only be described as erotic.
No, no. No, why could it only be described as erotic? Because that's convenient for you and your weird worldview and your weird fetish and your total complete lack of ability to connect with another human being on a level that is deeper than, as you call it, the P and V. I find it amusing that she says that is like, so superficial and it's so, facile and surface in nature. Meanwhile, that's the only way. Oh, Lord, that's the only connection you can have with a man. It doesn't go deeper than that for you. Wow, she's lacking in self-awareness, man.
So expand your imagination.
I mean, this woman is totally, completely incapable of having anything deeper than a purely physical, materialistic, hedonistic relationship with a man. And now she's, calling other people out and telling them that it's sad if you can only connect via that, which nobody's arguing. No, other people, unlike you, honey, and your total complete lack of ability to empathize with others, they actually can connect on a deeper level. Yes, they can. And they can do that through the sexual act.
Get a little bit more creative and get your mind out of the gutter, because it's not what you think it is.
Oh, I got to get my mind out of the gutter. Oh, my mind is in the gutter if I have a mate, if I have, as she calls it, a partner, typical cultural Marxist feminist language. My mind's in the gutter if I want to have sexual relations with that person. What? Trying to justify her weird fetish and worldview. Look, couples that have been together a long time, they were able to be together for a long time because of a deep appreciation and bond that she's incapable of having with a human and can only have with a tree, which is, I would argue, no bond at all, because it's totally completely one way and circular in nature, and it's really just her bonding with her. Oh, she can't do it to another person, so that is a lack in her, not a lack in others. But normal human beings, we bond, yes, physically, but through that physical act, there's also an emotional element that you're simply incapable of having, and you need to detach from the physical act because you're incapable of combining the two on a level that would lead to, or that would imply, demonstrate true intimacy with another human being, which you yourself have said you are incapable of having. But instead of working on your inability to have that deep, meaningful connection with another human, which makes it deep and meaningful because, they're alive and can think, you instead detach the two and use the husband for the physical and the tree for the emotional. And you think that's healthy and normal, and you have the unmitigated gall to be condescending and look down on what are actually normal human beings that can have healthy, normal relationships? Yeah. You, honey, you need a shrink. Is what you need, okay?
And when you get there, you're going to find a depth of meaning and a purpose in your life and an understanding of your humanness and your relationship with something greater.
What about the relationship of something greater that I get via joining with my partner and investing my time and my energy into building a bond and creating intimacy and building a family? Notice we didn't hear any mention of kids. And working on that and keeping my eroticism in the relationship and not detaching it, and instead transferring that energy to inanimate, unfeeling, unthinking objects, because I'm incapable of connecting, bonding with a human being in that deep, meaningful way. So instead, I'm going to look down on and bash that thing that is deep and meaningful. And I'm going to really tell on myself because this is how I actually view sexual relations. It's just a base, facile, superficial act, right? So you need to detach the two. Yeah, that's how you cope, honey, because that's really the only way that you can approach life. So, yeah, mental illness on full display here. So there you go. There you go. This woman, Sonia Semyonova, claims she's in a erotic relationship with a tree. Her husband doesn't interest her, doesn't arouse her sexually, but instead inanimate objects existing in nature do, which is tantamount to saying that I am aroused by a chair or dirt or a rock. So she's not in any way, shape, or form mentally disturbed. Oh no! So let me know what you think. Is this trend growing? Are we going to see more or less of this in the future? Are we going to see more of this type of, what's it called, pansexual or something? Are we going to see more of this type of weird fetishistic behavior for inanimate objects in the future? Mostly from women. Because they're the more solipsistic of the species. Or is this just an outlier, and it's just going to remain an outlier, and it's not going to be something that's pushed as something that should be the new normal or more common among the general population by the media and academia? Let me know what you think in the comments section, and please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already. And again, follow me on Alternative Tech, BITCHUTE, BitChute. I'm there. And there I am, the Realist Philosopher. And Rumble, I'm also the Realist Philosopher. Give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. And also, if you'd really like to support my continued content creation, please consider going to Patreon, follow me there, make it a donation. I am also the Realist Philosopher on Patreon. Anyhow, I am the Bachelor Philosopher, also known as the Realist Philosopher, and I wish you all a good and pleasant day. Take care.